So that Rakul Preet Singh is, my goodness, gorgeous, beautiful. She's just like radiating on the screen, like a car radiator, just like radiating. I really liked her. She was great. She was the silver lining in the movie. I would watch a spin-off movie of NGK. NGK, the spin-off, starring Rakul Preet Singh as Vanathi. Vanathi. The legend. Vanathi, the legend continues. I would watch that movie all day, every day. She's, oh boy. Anyway.
Shall we review the movie now?
Good lord, NGK. Okay, I'm not sure where to start with this film. Let's start with the IMDb. As in the tradition of the Jaby KOAY. After certain circumstances in his village, Nanda Gopalan Kumaran stands for MLA election for the party Kakum Munetra Kazagam. This is written and directed by Selvaraghavan. It stars Suriya, Rakul Preet Singh, oh my goodness gracious, Rakul Preet Singh, and Sai Pallavi. This was something. Let's focus on the positive for the time being.
Okay.
And the average retention rate of a YouTube video is around 5 minutes, so we'll just keep blabbering on for a solid 5 times 60 seconds, and then after all the people have dropped off, we'll go into a couple of the little tiny negative critiques, minor things here and there, you know. Rakul Preet Singh, that's number one. I liked her quite a bit. I thought that
based on her looks?
I was about to say before you just casually interrupted me, Captain Interrupto joke graveyard. I was gonna say I liked her performance. I thought it was nice. She was actually, you know, one of the redeeming qualities of the film for me, beyond her beauty.
I thought that Sai Pallavi was very good as well.
I thought she was good up to a certain point, but I don't think any of the negative feelings I had towards her performance was her fault.
Yes, I agree with you on that. I think just watching her do her thing, I can tell that she's a solid actress.
Yes.
Yeah.
Suriya, I've only watched once before in another film called 24. It's the one I've mentioned so many times. Because it's the first, as far as I know, it's the first Indian sci-fi action film ever.
Okay.
As far as I know. I could be wrong about that. I liked Suriya from that, and I could tell from that film that he is a good actor. And here, I liked his performance through half the film, I'd say. And then the other half, it was getting a bit weird. Off of my experience with him, again, I'm like, I'm inclined to think that whatever I didn't like wasn't necessarily his fault. My favorite part of the film, I'm not gonna say what happens, but my favorite part of the film was like the last 15 minutes of the movie. I thought that it was the best, and I was like, I would have loved for the film to have catered to that much more, like in a much more focused way.
Right.
Because those last 15 minutes was really like the message of the movie. And the thing about it is by the time we get there, it's like we've been through a lot of stuff that wasn't necessarily stuff we needed to go through, is a nice way of putting it. There was a lot happening in this movie. It was happening really fast and it was all over the place. It was like the writing had ADD because it kept going here, then here, then here, and I'm like, okay. When you got down to the end of the movie and you understood what the point was, the message of it, I'm like, okay. This is a weird comparison, but it's the one that makes the most sense off the top of my head, which is, this is kind of like it's trying to be V for Vendetta, but in its own small town kind of way, small town India kind of way.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
So it's about a guy who's trying to start a grassroots movement to overtake his government, basically.
Exactly. Well, it's to create change. The whole point is to bring about change. But the film spends so much time going here and there and here and there, and I'm like, okay. I really wish it was more focused in on the point. That's my biggest complaint, is that it's like all over the place. I wasn't enjoying myself as much as I should have been watching this movie. It's like I wasn't having an enjoyable experience watching it. There were redeeming moments. There were moments that made me laugh. And that was the other part, is like, I heard people laughing sometimes, and I'm like, okay. With the South Indian films that I've seen, at least with the Telugu and Tamil, there's this kind of fluid mixture of comedy, action, drama, and it kind of does everything, right? This is not unique to Tamil and Telugu action films. This happens in China as well, Asian cinema in general. You'll see a mix of tonality. But I was starting to wonder at a certain point if the film was satire, if it was being satirical about something that I just didn't get the joke about. Like Jupiter Ascending, random reference, but just bear with me. Jupiter Ascending is a film that essentially makes fun of Anastasia all those classic films about like the princess, the damsel in distress princess.
Right.
No one got the joke except for Jaby KOAY apparently, because I loved the movie once, because I understood the joke. I understood what they were going for, and because I understood the joke, I enjoyed the film thoroughly because it was making fun of the princess who was basically helpless. I can really explain that if you give me time to do it, but I'm not going to do that here. I actually have a review dedicated to that. So my point in bringing that up is that here I was like, there was such comical moments that I'm like, are they making fun of something about like politics and I just don't get the joke? You know, I heard people chuckling sometimes. I'm like, okay, it's okay to laugh here. But anyway, that was a notion I had at certain points while watching the film. I've been talking a lot. Maybe you should interject.
Okay, well, while we're on the subject of positives, right?
Yes.
Are we still on that subject?
Oh, I've been kind of fluidly going back and forth, like the tonality of the movie, but
yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually enjoyed the story. I thought that it was an engaging story.
What was the story?
So the story is basically he's a young guy who's very idealistic, and then...
You like the premise, not the story.
Okay.
There's a big difference. You like the setup and the payoff. You like the what it wants to do, what it's aiming for, but you didn't necessarily like the story.
Maybe. I mean, whatever it is, whether it's story or premise, I found myself enjoying that. It was just all the details around it that made me confused and unsure about what I was watching.
Right.
Yeah.
The second act, essentially. Your first act is your setup, right? You figure out who your characters are, what the movie's essentially about, the tone of the movie. I mean, that's an American standard more than an Asian standard. You were complaining a lot about what was set up and not paid off properly throughout the film. So
that's right.
The first act is supposed to set everything up, then the second act is your adventure, third act is resolution. I mean, in the most traditional generic sense. And so the second act was very messy in this movie, and it's like it was taking me all over the place, and then and things were happening so fast and so condensed that I couldn't fully appreciate what was happening. Like if they spent a little more time in the first act, allowing things to breathe a little more and set up a little more, let me get to know this guy.
Right.
Before it jumped into the next thing. The beginning of the movie starts out with establishing the household situation with his mom, his dad, his wife.
Yeah.
Right? That's what we're establishing.
Mm-hmm.
And there's some dialogue about that whole relationship thing and how he really cares for her.
Yeah.
And then it just jettisons forward into this whole thing where he's fighting for people. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, it just felt so abrupt.
Yeah, and then there was a lot of people saying like, oh, you've always been like this. This is who you are.
Right, there's a lot of talking and not showing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that was a little bit confusing. Like you said, as the movie went on in the second act and all that, I was actually getting really confused because I was like, wait, is he a hero or is he an anti-hero? Are we supposed to like him? Are we supposed to not like him? Because I'm starting to not like him and I'm very confused about why that's happening.
Yeah.
Because like I understand that they're trying to show that when you go into politics, you can't keep your hands clean. I think that's the message, isn't it? Or at least that's one message I got, which was, you know, you have to do some dirty things in order to be in politics.
Yes.
But then I was like, wait, but I really liked that guy in the beginning. Even though he was doing weird, maybe questionable things, I was like, okay, well, if you're going to go that direction, then really go that direction.
Yeah, it wasn't really clear. He kept riding the fence, or riding the line, straddling the line. I gotta mention this. And this is me in my little American box, my ignorant American box. There are certain things I haven't been able, certain humps I haven't been able to get over yet. When we watched Rustum, right at the beginning of the movie, there was a theme song for Rustum singing about Rustum.
Yeah.
If you remember that. And it weirded me out because I'm like, well, the movie's now like it's pushing too hard who I'm supposed to be rooting for. And this film did the same thing. And I realized I really don't like when there's a theme song for your main character. There's literally a song in the middle of the movie singing NGK like over and over again as he's fighting all these people. And I'm like, yeah, I don't. For some reason, I don't like that. Give me another year, maybe I'll be okay with that. And all, but like that's one thing that still weirds me out. I was glad that it turned out that he cheated on his wife.
I was not.
No, I was glad because that was an instance where the film did something that was not cliche. Remember the movie with Jason Bateman and Ryan Reynolds where they switched places because they peed in the fountain?
I haven't watched that movie.
Oh, but you know the movie I'm talking about?
Yes.
Okay, so what happens is they swap places and Jason Bateman is you know, Okay, you got the premise.
Yeah.
There's this hot chick that Jason Bateman is now like pseudo messing around with as Ryan Reynolds, right? Because he's in his body and he gets to do this thing he's never gotten to do. But halfway through doing it, he stops. He's like, no, you're not my wife. And it's like, that is so unrealistic. That's not what would happen. And it makes me so upset because it sets up this thing where it's like, yeah, that's ideal, I suppose, but when do we see a movie where they actually follow through on that action? And here he did. Like, and I freaking believed it. I'm like, yeah, I believe that you would cheat on your wife. She's gorgeous, she's powerful, and she's so into you, bruh. Like, I totally believe that you would cheat on her. Yes, it makes his character look worse, and he has more to, while it makes his character look worse, as the audience, now the film has to work harder to, it's kind of like comedians when they're on stage and they kind of lose the audience a little bit, then they gotta like work hard to bring them back. And some comedians get off on that feeling. They get high from that, from like losing the audience for a second and pulling them back in. And so that's what the film was doing for me, only it continued to lose me.
No, okay, so the whole reason why I was finding it really hard to get on board with the infidelity thing was that it was just not developed. Do you know
why? How?
No, because it wasn't. 1 minute he's in the room with her, right, and you can tell the sexual tension, and then the next it's like nothing happened, and then he goes back to his wife.
Something happened.
And she no, but it's like all off screen, and then she smells the perfume or whatever, and he's like, no, nothing happened. But then you don't see the development of that relationship, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh yeah, I'm cheating, and then his wife's all like, no, you're not. And like, I kind of get that, you know, sometimes women get crazy when they find out the truth and then they're all like, oh no, it's too much. And then when the scene came where it was like confirmed that they were having this affair, I was just mad. I was just so angry. And then the music video comes on, and the whole time I'm looking at it and I'm like, I hate you.
Okay, look, here's the thing. I liked the way that all played out because you weren't sure if he did it or not. And I'm predisposed to going, he didn't do it. There's all this suspense about whether or not he did it, and we all know he didn't cheat. And the movie's like, no, he cheated. I'm like, what? Like, it actually caught me off guard because for like, I was so happy that happened because it surprised me.
Right.
Not because I wanted her to get screwed. Sai Pallavi. I didn't want her to get screwed over as a character. I was so happy that it surprised me because I was expecting that not to be the case.
Well, yeah, no, it totally surprised me, and it just made me kind of hate him, which then led me down the thing of like, oh wait, he's doing a lot of really quite questionable things, not just having an affair with another woman.
Give me a break. There are so many American films where like the women cheat and then you all feel sorry for the woman who's cheating.
No.
It's like Titanic is a great example where she's like got this one dude and then this other dude and then everyone feels sorry for Rose. And then not 50 Shades of Grey, The Notebook, where she's got this one dude and this other dude and everyone feels sorry for the chick, like, oh my god, what a problem she has. She can't make up her mind. Give me a break.
But there's nothing there which indicates like that he's struggling with anything. For all I knew, in the beginning, he was having a wonderful relationship with his wife.
You could see he was struggling. I saw he was struggling.
Are you just
Are you kidding me? No. There were so many instances where Suriya was pensive. Look, firstly, let me state, this movie's a 2 at best, okay? But I have to give credit where credit is due. There were many instances where he was pensive and he had a lot on his mind. Like, the world was literally on his shoulders. This isn't like me projecting. I could literally see it. Like, there was something going on with him, but the movie wasn't explaining to you what. And then it does. He's kicking the pots because he's like, yeah, I cheated. But it's like, he obviously has mixed feelings about it. They didn't properly explore the mixed feelings. I'll give you that. But they did not fail to show you that he had a lot on his mind.
Yeah, no, I get that. It's just that I would have liked to see more of the mixed feelings. It did turn around for me in the end when later on I could see that he did love his wife. I can understand that you could, maybe be like, well, I love both of them. So, and it's tough. I get it. It's a hard life, whatever. But like, I just didn't, the whole way it was explored in the beginning, I was just kind of like, what? This bitch comes along and just mad.
That ain't no bitch. She's beautiful. She wanted some and she got some.
Yeah. Like, all the pretty girls always want to go after the married men. It's like, it's a chick magnet. If you're single, put a ring on your finger, watch.
I have been there. That's actually funny you should say that, because at one point I was wearing a ring on this finger, and man, women spoke to me way more often than at any other point in my life when I was wearing that ring. And it was like it wasn't even like a legit ring. I think it was something I got from one of those quarter
Really?
things, like the little toys.
Yeah.
You know? It wasn't anything legit. But anyway, here's the thing that I liked most about Suriya in this movie, when he was doing nothing.
Yes.
That sounds weird if you don't know what I'm talking about. It's called the Ryan Gosling effect as well. When he was way down,
Yeah.
and he was just simple, when he was pensive, when he was looking at the camera, everything was small. Mm-hmm. That's when I liked him the most, and it felt the most real, and I felt the most connected with him. But outside of that, there was so much like over the top acting in the movie, and I'm like, why is this happening? And it was from everybody. It was difficult.
Yeah,
it was difficult
I agree.
because I just didn't know what the movie was trying to do. I was very confused by the tonality of the movie. And after the film, I talked to some people who were there just to like make sure I wasn't crazy. The person I spoke to was like, yeah, it's like average at best. So I was like, okay, I'm not crazy. And I feel bad because I go into movies wanting to love them. I always go into movies wanting to appreciate them. And so I'm always looking for the most redeeming qualities possible because I want a reason to like the movie. And here I walked out and I was really frustrated because the most redeeming part of the film was the last 15 where I'm like, that's the story you wanted to tell me? Like, why didn't you make that your story? Like, the whole speech at the end of the movie was very moving.
Yeah, it was powerful.
I was like, that's what this movie should have been gearing me towards, was that. It should have been this whole thing the entire time of him going into like the movie that you pitched to me in the commercial is what you should have given me.
Yes.
It's about him going into politics more directly, not this weird backwards gymnastics stuff, but more directly. And he has to deal with combating people along his adventure to getting to that position so that he can lead the people towards a new nation or a new leadership, you know?
Yeah. I think the thing that was getting me really confused about his character, and I don't know if this is just because Suriya is really good at acting, and I know this sounds really weird to say, I have a problem, because maybe he's just too good of an actor, but you know when he was doing things that seemed out of character to his character? Where in the beginning he was like very idealistic and righteous, and then when he joins the party, he realizes that he kind of has to play the game, so he plays this character who's very ingratiating.
I didn't like any of that.
Yeah, I was like, what?
I didn't like any of that.
I don't know, like, and then sometimes he would slip in and out of it, and I was like, I don't know if that's just him acting. Is that a character choice? Is that him as an actor?
It was a character choice. No, that's a character choice.
And it was just very confusing to me.
Well, it's a combination of two things. It's what the director wanted, obviously, because I think it's what the director wanted, and it was a character thing. Not a character choice, but a character thing in the script. Like, according to the script, this is what he needed to do. He had to go to this kind of crazy, over-the-top stuff based on the writing and the direction, which is coming from the same source, mind you.
Yes.
And then, you know, the regular.
Right, but then there were certain moments when he was like in the regular, and then part of that thing would come through, and then I was like, wait, is this the part where he's being that weird character?
I don't know.
Or is that actually him? And so I got really confused about what that was telling me as an audience about his character.
Let's talk about the action for a hot second.
Oh, yeah.
So in 24, one of my complaints was that the action stuff kind of came out of nowhere, meaning, more specifically, Suriya suddenly had the ability to whoop ass, like hardcore.
Yeah.
And like suddenly he had the skill set of Jackie Chan, and I'm like, this wasn't established in the movie. Why is he so equipped with this martial arts ability? And the same thing happened here where, out of nowhere, dude's got some martial arts stuff, and I'm like, how the hell did that happen? Like, where is this established in this film?
It is established. Because there's a moment when the bad guys from one party are talking, and then one of the henchmen is like, I don't trust him because his dad was in the army, and up until his dad retired, he used to go to the army camp every holiday. That's when it was set up. It was a tenuous setup for sure.
That's a really, really shoddy setup.
Yeah.
Because army camp doesn't necessarily imply that you're training. Army camp could be anything.
If
you're an army brat, you might just be on the base with other kids. That doesn't necessarily mean you're training.
Well,
I mean, but that's a Western thing though. I don't know what it is for an Indian thing, but like being in an army camp, you could be gun training. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're like learning Krav Maga or CQC. I don't know. That's so vague.
I think that's where they set it up though, because when they said that, I immediately went, oh, this is the setup for all the action stuff.
Fine.
Because up until that point, there was no action.
Fine. I'll concede on that. I will concede on that. That's fine. But regarding the action sequences, I want to say that I appreciated one thing about the action, which is there was a lot of wide shots, so you could really see what was going on. Yeah. There was long takes. I prefer that in general because I like to be able to see the action. The problem is there was a lot of misses in the action where there was literally a gap over and over again, and they put sound effects, and I'm like, y'all didn't make contact. Like, I can see that there's no contact there. And it was just, it happened several times in that bathroom action sequences where there's this big gap between a fist and face. Yeah. I'm like, couldn't you do like I don't know what happened on set, but so there was that, right? The other cool thing about the action was that they were experimenting with like some intense impact stuff. Like he flipped this chick and then slammed her face into the ground. I'm like, that was dope. Not the chick getting messed up, but like just the movement was cool. I like that they threw chicks in there.
No, I did too.
But it was a little weird, admittedly, because I'm like, where did these broads come from? Like, they were not established in this movie. Like
they're just badass killers, you know. Sometimes they're chicks, and I appreciated that he didn't discriminate in kicking butt. He kicked female butt and male butt equally hard.
Yeah, I would have preferred that if they had shown all of them in doctor and nurse apparel. Then I would have been like, yeah, that's awesome, because they're all in disguise.
Oh,
then
right.
Then that would have been cool. But they were just in
like
regular get-up, and I'm like, what the hell? So anyway, the fight scenes were kind of hit and miss. Like, it was cool that it was wide, and you know that you could see the action better, but there was a lot of misses, and it just was a little clunky sometimes. It felt a little bit inspired by The Raid 2. You haven't seen that,
no.
But there's a whole bathroom fight scene in The Raid 2. It was literally like the same shot too, looking down as he's like fighting people, kicking people out of the stall, closing the door, fighting people, open the stall door, bring more people in. Like, that was straight out of The Raid 2. It wasn't done nearly as well as The Raid 2, but I could see the inspiration. I'm like, oh, that's a nice nod to Jaby KOAY. And I mean, and people like me who appreciate that kind of action. Right. I thought that was cool. I'm fairly certain that the director enjoyed Mission Impossible, the last one, with the bathroom fight. He's like, oh, Tom Cruise slammed someone into a pea pot, so I'm gonna slam it into all the pea pots.
Yeah.
Anyway,
like, he's
a urinal.
So strong, and also he was still under the influence of drugs, and
that made no sense
at
all.
Okay, I'm ready to fight. Let's go, and I'm gonna kick some serious butt because I'm that badass.
Yeah, that was. At that point, I'm like, whatever. I just kind of gave up on the movie by that point. But there were redeeming qualities. Like I said, Rakul Preet Singh, she was worth the price of admission. I'm glad I got to watch her. And Suriya had some good acting moments. And I liked the message overall of the movie. I thought the message was great. The last 15 minutes was definitely, it moved me. It would have moved me way more if the story was focused. I would have been in tears at the end of the movie if the story was focused. But because it wasn't, it didn't bring me to that place. But anyway, I would totally give this director another shot. I heard that he's actually really good. I would give him another shot, watching another one of his films. But this one was not something that I was, it's not one I can strongly recommend. But I'd say there are some redeeming moments in there if you decide to go watch it. You guys, I apologize that this was so long, but there was a lot of feelings elicited with this film. So be sure to check out ACHARA KIRK and Jaby KOAY on the social media if you'd be so kind. And most of you aren't watching at this point, but if you are, say hashtag we're still here, KOAY family, forever and ever. I'm Jaby KOAY, this is
ACHARA KIRK.
Peace out.